This video is designed to help you with the exploration sheet for section 8.3 that deals with polar graphing. The very first part of this sheet is simply asking you to plot polar points and then connect them to form a graph. Pay close attention to the points you're plotting, and then I will assume that your connect the dot skills from first grade will take over and hopefully let you see a neat little design. I did want to do an example similar to what you will be doing in number 2 of the exploration sheet, and you'll notice that above number 2 I have included the little toolbox that we should always have handy when we're dealing with polar graphing. We have our two equations here that allow you to convert from polar to Cartesian, because if you know the r and the theta, it makes it easy to get x and y. And then here's the equations where if you know x and y, you can use the top one, right, to figure out r, and then you can use the bottom one to figure out theta. So we can actually use these equations to not only convert points, but to also convert equations. So let's see how we can do this with this equation. I will point out this equation is a little more complicated than the ones that you have on the sheet. Now what you're really looking to use when you're converting from the polar, like we have here, to the Cartesian is trying to get either r times sine of theta or r times cosine of theta, because then it's very easy to switch to x and or y. Now I see here that I have sine of theta, but I don't have r sine theta. So I can't just change this sine theta to y. That would be assuming that we're on the unit circle, and we don't really know that. All right, but I do notice that there's an r over here. So if I could get this sine theta with this r, that would be good. So let's see if we can do that. Have you thought of a way to get the r and the sine theta together? Yes, indeed. If we just multiply the whole denominator all the way over to the other side, we can get that r next to the sine theta, and that's a good thing, because now we can just replace that r sine theta with y. Why can we do that? Our toolbox says we can do that, right? Okay, so now we still have to deal with this r, because that's a polar component, and we need to get everything over to Cartesian. So let's see, let's do this. Let's get the y over to the other side and then see what we can do with that r. So now, let's see, to deal with this r, why don't we come over and look over here, because we do have that r squared equals x squared plus y squared. So we've got a couple of choices here. We could just replace, we could take the square root of both sides, and that would be r equal to the square root of all this, or we could just get r squared over here and then replace it with x squared plus y squared. And I think that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so we just decided to square both sides, and that's going to give me 9r squared on the left-hand side and then 1 minus y squared on the right. And we can just then replace that r squared with x squared plus y squared. And technically we are done at this point. We have changed all the polar stuff over to Cartesian or rectangular. Rectangular, by the way, is another word we use for Cartesian coordinate system. All right, well, I'd like to try to make a little bit of sense of this equation to see, what does this graph actually look like? Now, on the sheet, the exploration sheet, you don't have to go beyond this, and the ones that you have to convert are not this complicated. But let's do a little algebra just to see what's going on here with this graph. When I distribute everything, and that includes, multiplying 1 minus y times itself over here, I see I'm getting, like x squares plus y squares. Let's gather things up. And so I'm thinking this is either like a circle or an ellipse, and the fact that that's an 8 and that's a 9 is making me think it might be elliptical. So what we can do here is complete the square on the y's, and then we can kind of get it into a form that's maybe a little more recognizable. So here's this equation where I've completed the square on the y's. You can see I had to factor the 8 out from the two y terms, and that left me with a 1/4 y in the middle, right? 2 divided by 8. And then to know what to add to it, right, I took half of that number, of that b term, and squared it, all right? And then over here, I compensated for it by adding 1/8. And remember, even though it looks like I just added 1/64, that's being multiplied by 8, which would be 1/8. All right, let's go to the next slide to kind of finish this up, and we can also look at the graph. When I first looked at this graph, I thought it was a circle, but I'm seeing, as things are moving along algebraically, that it does appear to be more of an ellipse, but ever so slightly. So the form we're shooting for an ellipse in Cartesian looks like this, okay? So I need to get a 1 on this side. Let's see, we had gotten up to this point, and now when we factor this trinomial, it becomes 1 plus 8 squared. 1 plus 8 times 1 plus 8, so that's the whole completing the square part. And then over here we end up with 9/8, and if we want to get a 1 over here, let's just multiply both sides by 8/9. So we do that, distribute the 8/9 across there, we're just going to have 8x squared, then we're going to have the 64 on top and the 9 on the bottom, and that equals 1. And now to get it looking like this, where there's no number in front of the x part or the y part, we're going to write this 8, bring it down, and this becomes x squared over 1/8, and bring the 64 down into the denominator, and we get 9/64 in the bottom, okay? And so now looking at this, we can see that our center is at 0 for x and negative 1/8 for y. So negative 1/8 is 0.125, so here's where the center would be. And then as far as how far out, up and down do you go in the y direction, that would be what b is, okay? So if we take the square root of 9/64, we get 3/8, which is 0.375, as you can see over here. So if we think about that, if we go down 0.375 units, there's 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and then another 0.75. That would put us down here at negative 0.5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this seems to be working. Now, as I said, you don't need to worry about doing this on the assignment tonight, but just thought it'd be kind of neat to explore. Before we get away from the conversions, let's just take a look at a simpler one here where we're trying to convert from Cartesian back to polar, all right? Generally, this is an easier thing to do because wherever we see a y, right, we can just replace it with our sine theta, and wherever we see x, we replace it with our cosine theta. So once you've done the substitution, you might think that you're done. However, generally what we try to do is end up with an equation that is r equals, okay? So that's what you're shooting for. So I'm going to leave it kind of there if you decide to take this route, so that on the exploration, so that you can get some practice with trying to isolate r. I will point out that r is actually linear in a sense. Let me show you. You see, you have your two r terms. Here's the coefficient in front of this one, and here's the coefficient in front of this one. And there's no square on the r's or anything, so it's just linear. So you may recall when we were solving equations early in the year that were linear, we just want to get all those terms on the same side. So like get all your r terms over on the left-hand side, leave the negative 7 on the right, and then you can isolate. Should be able to pull the r out and divide, all right? See if that helps if you decide to go this route. All right, all the problems on the back side of the sheet are going to be similar to what you're going to see on the rest of the video, though I am using a polar curve that's a little more complicated than what you're going to see. But I do want to point out that one of the things on the sheet suggests that you see if you can get your calculator to graph some of these things. You know, so you can go to a graphs page, but you'll need to hit the menu button and then look for graph entry edit, okay, and see if you can find how to get these polar graphs. I believe you can do it either from Scratchpad or from a new document. Two questions you're going to see fairly often are what can be the maximum value for R for our equation up here, and what can be the minimum value for R. All right. Now, when you see like a sine or a cosine, and you can see the variable is in the sine or the cosine, all we really have to do for this problem is to maximize that sine or cosine. So just going to ask yourself the following question. What are the extreme values for the cosine of 2 theta? Like, what's the largest cosine of 2 theta can be? What's the smallest cosine of 2 theta can be? Hopefully you're already thinking, yeah, -1 and +1, right? -1's the smallest and +1's the biggest. So those are the places or the values we need to kind of go with here. So let's see, if cosine is 1, then we're just going to have 2 plus 4 times 1. All right, so I believe the maximum value that we're going to get here appears to be 6, right? We'll have 2 plus 4 times 1. That will give us 6. And that's certainly going to be bigger than going the other way if we have 2 plus 4 times -1, right? That's going to be 2 minus 4. So it looks like the smallest value we can get for R is -2. I will warn you, don't assume that the largest value always happens when cosine is 1, because if you think about it, if this had been a -2 minus 4, then when cosine's -1 would actually produced our maximum value for the curve. Let's explore just a little bit more to determine what values of theta are giving us our maximum and our minimum R values. Okay, probably the maximum value is one you can look at and almost guess here that it appears we're getting all the way out to 6. Over here when it looks like our angle would be 0, and over here when our angle is pi, but let's just check that out algebraically. This is where we're really going to start to use some of our solving abilities for sine and cosine. Now, we could just plug our 6 in for R and start to solve, but you could see we'd subtract the 2 first, it would give us 4, and then divide by 4, which would give us 1. And we've already analyzed that this is going to happen when cosine of 2 theta equals 1. So let's just start from there. So when I solve this equation, right, remember we already have the trig function solved for us, so we just need to find all the values of the angle, and our angle is 2 theta here. So cosine is equal to 1 when our angle is 0 plus 2 pi k, and that's the only place on the unit circle where that happens. And now we can solve for theta by dividing by 2, and we're left with just 0 plus pi k, right? So it appears that every time we hit one of the pi's, right, we're going to be having our maximum R value. All right, let's do the same thing over here for the minimum. All right, so doing the same thing here, the only time cosine is -1 is at pi, right? So that'd be pi plus 2 pi k. Dividing by the 2, we end up with pi over 2 plus pi k. So we can see that our minimum values, our -2's, are happening right at these places here for our angles. One thing I just want to point out, though, if I was to ask you, hey, what is this point right here? You might be tempted to think that this point is, let's see, is 2 and 3 pi over 2. Okay, but it's not, right? If we were to plug 3 pi over 2 into our equation, we'd have 3 pi over 2 times 2, they give us 3 pi, and the cosine would be -1, and we get back -2, right? So this point right here can't be when our angle is 3 pi over 2, right? This is the point I'll use the blue, okay, this is actually the point -2 pi over 2, right? Because when we plug in pi over 2, we're going to also get -1 right up here, and that will then translate into a -2. So that's what that point is. That point actually has a negative r value, -2. I just want to reiterate that the exploration sheet does not actually ask you to find these theta values. It simply asks you to determine what the maximum r value and the minimum r value are. But the next question we look at, it will be asking you for theta values. One very important thing to be able to do with polar graphs is to determine for what values of theta the graph intersects the pole, right, which is the origin. It's very common for students to think it happens when theta is 0, but we can see very clearly in this one that when you plug 0 in, right, the cosine's 1, and we actually get 6 way out here. This is the point when theta is 0. So what are the values that would cause our graph to hit the pole? All right, well, all we have to do is, first of all, think about what value of r we have at the pole, right? What's the one thing we know is true about any point that's at the pole, right? We know that its r value must be 0. So all we really have to do is set, plug 0 in for r here, and then solve for theta. So you can see you are going to be using your solving skills. So why don't you pause the video and see what values of theta you can get when you let r be 0. Then you can check with what I've done. All right, see if this is what you got. Of course, the first thing you need to do, right, is to solve for the trig function. So did you get the cosine of 2 theta equal to -1/2? And the next thing we need to do is solve for all values of the angle. Hopefully you found the 2 spots on the unit circle where the cosine's -1/2, right? They'd be up here at 2 pi over 3 and down here at 4 pi over 3. And then don't forget to add your 2 pi k. And then once we have all our angles, last but not least, we just divide by 2 to solve for our variable, right, which is theta. And that leaves us with pi over 3 plus pi k, or 2 pi over 3 plus pi k, which means there's 4 times when this graph will equal 0, or when the r value will be 0, or it will intersect the origin or the pole, what we call a pole. And you can kind of see that if we start over here at 0, it's probably going to trace around like this, come in, go down now into this little loop and hit at pi over 2 right down there, then come up, we hit the pole again, second time, go around out here till we get to, let's see, this was at pi down over here, and then coming around, hit the pole one more time. That's the third time, go up into the loop, there's 3 pi over 2, come back down and hit the pole the last time at 5 pi over 3, and then come on back out till we get back out to 2 pi and start the cycle over again. So this wraps up the main things you had to do on the sheet. Keep in mind I went above and beyond in a couple of instances, like with completing the square and things like that. So stick to what I'm asking you to do on the sheet and you should be fine. The examples I have you do on the sheet are not as complex as this graph is right here.